So man, it's your big brother K-Rino hitting y'all with a surprise daytime live stream. Daytime live. I haven't even announced it or let nobody know on my other social media platform that I was gonna do it. But my homie hit me up, the OG KO hit me up, and he was like, "Man, you need to speak on this." So I'm gonna definitely touch on it. As y'all come in, please hit the like button for your big brother. Hit the like button as you come in. And I don't plan to be very long. I don't plan to be very long, but I got to touch on some points on this subject. I definitely have to touch on some points on this particular situation because again, it points to a bigger, broader principle and a bigger, broader thought process that Black people have suffered under for a long, long time. And it's been instilled in us. So we're going to talk about this principle because I haven't watched any videos on this. I've just seen videos posted about it all up through YouTube, but I have not watched one of them. And Randy Moss was on ESPN and they were speaking about the coach John Gruden. And if you're a football fan, like I am, I've been watching football, so I'm very familiar with John Gruden, very familiar with Randy Moss, very familiar with a lot of the individuals that are associated with the National Football League. But John Gruden, who was coaching the Las Vegas Raiders, he just resigned yesterday because some emails surfaced where he was making a whole lot of negative comments about different groups of people, Black people, gay people, and others. He was just going in. He just had an assorted box of things that he was talking about in these various emails. The first email that surfaced, as y'all hit that like button when you come in, the first email that surfaced was him making very disparaging comments about a brother named I think his name is Demarcus Smith. I know I'm pronouncing his name wrong. Demarius Smith, Demaris, that's his name, Demaris Smith. And he was the director of the NFL Players Association at the time, back in the days. And John Gruden said he had some big rubber lips. Now, anybody knows anything about Black folks, we may crack on each other's lips. We may what we do call roasting and ranking on each other, but by no way, shape, and form would it be tolerated for a white person to make a lip joke about Black people. And that's what he did. Now, that being the initial email that came out, he made a statement where he apologized and said what um, covert racists normally say, what covert racists normally say in these situations. There's not a racist bone in my body. There's nothing about me racist. No history. I'm usually when they say that, I'm the least racist person in this room. When they say that, that means typically they're pretty racist. So he came out and he tossed that up and said that that was not a racist bone in his body. And he figured that that would get him by because there was only one email. Then the next day, multiple emails started to come out, started to surface. And next thing you know, it was discovered that there were many disparaging comments made about many different people and groups. And when that hit the fan, he went on and handed in his resignation. He decided that was going to be too much to come back from. And even then, if you watch, he did not humble himself because it wasn't in him to do. He said, I'm going to resign because I don't want to be a distraction to the Raiders organization. And you don't want to be a distraction. That's why you're resigning, not because you have remorse about what you said. Which, hey, I'm good with that. Because again, ain't no use in lying about it. He doesn't have remorse about what he said. He has no remorse about what he said. So yeah, tell the truth. And even though it was a lie for him to say he resigned because he didn't want to be a distraction, no, he resigned because that heat came down on him, he got exposed, and that was the best that he could put together in his statement. Now, so now that we up to speed on that part, because like I said, I don't want to be on here a long time. Randy Moss, NFL Hall of Fame wide receiver, currently an analyst on ESPN. They were in on a panel discussing the situation the other day, and he decided to speak on it. And as he was speaking on the situation, he started to get emotional, and he started to cry because his words were, he said, "This hurt me." That's what he said. He said, "This hurt me." Now, once that happened, I started seeing videos all up and down the YouTube world where I'm assuming, because I haven't watched any of them yet, I'm assuming black people are going in on Randy Moss because he's crying over a racist being exposed, right? And that's not something that we should be found doing at any point in time as black people, but definitely not in the year 2021. We should not be crying over the exposure of a undercover racist. Shouldn't be crying. So I'm sure Randy is getting some backlash. I'll know later on tonight when I watch some of these videos that I've seen, because some of the people that have posted the video, I already know they're going in on it. Now, here's the deal. Randy Moss's emotions based on that situation could have been connected to a couple of different things. There's dynamics to it that we got to explore. The first thing I want to talk about is the question if he and John Gruden had a relationship. Doesn't matter if they did or not, but sometimes I will give a person the benefit of the doubt, the person who's crying, I will give them the benefit of the doubt if it's a scenario where, oh man, I played with this man for 5 years and he's been to my home. He's ate dinner with my family. I've vacationed with him and I didn't imagine, I never saw this coming. Then I might give you an ounce because you might be shocked and surprised because you thought that he was a different type of person based on the relationship that you thought that y'all had. Even then, I'm not crying. But, and I'll get into history in a minute, but that's similar to people who live next door to a serial killer, or live next door to a murderer, or live next door to somebody who's just participating in some type of criminal activity. And when they finally bust this person, then they interview the neighbor on the news, and the neighbor goes, "Wow, man, we lived next to this guy for 10 years, and he was always friendly, and he always waved, and he would um, help my children throw the football with my children sometime. We never suspected that he had 9 bodies in his basement." It's kind of that similar principle. If you had a relationship with the person, you thought you knew him. You thought you knew him. But I discovered that Randy Moss never played for John Gruden. So I can't find any evidence of any relationship that they had. And so I was kind of baffled as to why this would strike him. But let me say this real quick before everybody just grabs him by the hand and chops his head off. He did start to speak about when he was young and how when he was in high school, he suffered a couple of racial situations that affected him. So it's possible that the emotion that drudged up in him may have been connected to something he was thinking about from his youth and the situation that he went through. So that's possible that that was the trigger. But even if that was the trigger, it still speaks to a sense of being oblivious or seemingly being oblivious, because you can't live 45, 50 years in America and be black and come off as if you're shocked about racism. So even if he's coming off like that, I'm still like, well, nah, man, because you know the history of this country. You have seen many people who have played that role, and then the same thing would happen to John Gruden. Worse has happened in revealing the true colors of other races in the past. It's a mindset. So we have to question what made him get emotional about that. He also said, this hurt me. He said, this hurt me. So to say this hurts me is like to indicate, well, I can't believe, or I'm shocked that he would do that, when we shouldn't be shocked. Shouldn't be shocked. Because history has already shown us over and over again. John Gruden is an individual who coached in the early 2000s. He took over a Tampa Bay Buccaneers team that was previously coached by a black man named Tony Dungy, and they were right on the cusp of winning, and Tony Dungy was released. He was fired, and John Gruden came in the next year and took the team that Dungy built and won the Super Bowl with it. And since then, John Gruden has been regarded as this great hell of a coach. He left coaching because he didn't win anymore after that. He left coaching, went into the broadcast booth, started doing Monday Night Football for a few years, came back to coaching recently in recent years, and received a $100 million contract to coach. Now, this $100 million contract at the time, if I'm not mistaken, was unprecedented. No coaches had ever got that kind of money, to my knowledge. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty certain that I'm right. He received a contract that players would normally get, superstar players would normally get $100 million, and some players would never touch that kind of money. But his resume did not match the contract. So I'm saying that to say this, that nothing he ever did, he's never earned the money that he received. But the NFL is a good old boy organization. The NFL, all of these team owners and all of these leagues, they are very racist at their core, at their root. And they're going to look out for each other. That's just how it is. That's just a fact. But the NFL is on another level. Maybe hockey. Hockey might have the NFL. But the NFL is on another level. So to grant this man, who really hasn't accomplished anything other than taking somebody else's recipe and cooking a meal with it and saying, look what I cooked, he hasn't done anything since. But they look out for each other. Meanwhile, this is the same league that black coaches have held trying to get a head coaching job. And then they're typically relegated to being coordinators and whatever, because the ownership group And when I say the ownership group, I mean all 32 owners. They are in unison in keeping this thing how they want to keep it, with the help of the puppet commissioner, Roger Goodell, who does their bidding and does everything that they tell him to do, because he know where his bread is buttered. Saying all that to say that John Gruden was never a hell of a coach. He's no Bill Belichick. He's no, let's go back in time, he's no Bill Walsh. But they tried to build him up to be that. He was a younger guy when he first came in, so they were pumping him up to be this young hotshot dude coming up. So when these emails come out and this guy comes out and shows his true colors came out. You can't say, oops, my bad, oops, slip of the tongue. Nah. Slip of the tongue once, I'm still done with you. But slip of the tongue 13, 14, 18 times, that's you. That's who you are. So why was Randy Moss crying? He was crying because throughout the history of black people in this country, ever since we were brought over here as slaves and conditioned, we've been conditioned to sympathize with the very people who have oppressed us, period. We've conditioned to feel like that. Malcolm X gave a speech many years ago, and he talked about the house Negro and the field Negro, and he spoke about how the house Negro would always put the massa before himself. And he used the example, like if he walked in and the massa was sick, was under the weather, he would say, "What's the matter, boss? We sick?" He would include himself in the suffering of his oppressor, in essence, putting the oppressor's suffering ahead of himself. And we've done that throughout history because we have been instilled with a thought process that gives us an inferiority complex to white supremacy. Period. This is a fact. So the shock and the surprise and the tears come in those situations because I can't believe that John Gruden would reveal himself to be a racist, when in fact the opposite should be the response should be, oh, okay, well, not surprised at all. And Rex Ryan was on the same panel. Teddy Bruschi was on the same panel. They didn't cry, but the black man cried. The black man cried, man. And when the powers that be, the ESPN executives, the NFL executives, when all of the other white supremacists and those who carry those ideologies, when they see him crying like that, they smile with a sense of pride because they like, boy, he and others have been well conditioned. Any tears that should have been shed over that situation should have been tears of joy, not tears of hurt. And again, I'm going to say this because, like I said, he started getting emotional when he brought up a situation that he went through. So I'm hoping that that's what triggered his emotion. He was feeling his own pain, but I'm hoping his pain was what happened to him, not pain coming from disappointment over who did it. It's a difference. It's a big difference. Covert and overt. I like my racist. You know how people ask you how you like your eggs? How you like your eggs? You want them scrambled? You want them sunny side up? You want them poached? How do you want your eggs? And you tell them. I like my races to be outward. I like to know my racist is a racist because it's less danger involved and it's less expectation involved. There's not any expectation involved. See? Randy Moss also made a statement where he said that we're moving backwards. He said we're moving back. The problem with that statement, and I ain't beating up on Randy Moss, I'm just disagreeing. The problem with that statement is that to say that we, I guess he's speaking about the society as a whole, to say that we have moved back or we're moving back, that's indicating that not us, that's indicating that the racists have moved forward at some point. Because DeMar Smith didn't do anything to be called rubber lips or nothing like that. John Gruden's words were the inflammatory statements that were made. So you can't say we're moving back. See? You can't move back if you haven't moved forward. To move back, Black people have made progress through fighting oppression, because power concedes nothing without a demand. Those were the words of Frederick Douglass. Mr. Farrakhan took it a step further and said power concedes nothing without a demand that's backed by power. So basically, if we had never fought, the system never gave any pushback to the oppression that we've experienced as Black people in this country, we would still be in the same situation. Nobody was going to come along and say, man, you know what, man, we wrong, dog. We've been doing these people like this all these years, man. They would have never done that. So to say we moved back, nah. A guy like John Gruden felt like he felt the whole time. Drew Brees made those comments during the social justice kneeling debates in the NFL. He felt like that whole time. Brett Favre said the things he said during the racial injustice, social injustice debates about police brutality and the flag and the national anthem. He felt like that the whole time. All the years when he played, or when he had all his Black teammates and all, he felt like that the whole time. That's what y'all got to understand. This is the hard truths that you got to hear if you in this country and you claim America's just this sweet melting pot of a place. See? But we've been so conditioned to sympathize with our oppressors. We've been taught since slavery, love your enemies. That's why we see so many instances. I was watching a show the other night, and this is the straight up truth. The name of this show, I don't know if it's the exact name, I'm paraphrasing it, but the topic of this show was the top 5 acts of courtroom forgiveness. Top 5 acts of courtroom forgiveness. And I started watching at 5 as they counted all the way down. I didn't watch the whole show. I got to number 2. So that means I saw 5, 4, 3, and 2. And every one that I saw, besides one, I didn't see one, they were all Black. They were all Black people in the courtroom forgiving white people who had murdered their family members. That's a mental condition that we suffer from. Going out of our way to love someone who has done something to destroy some aspect of your life, killing somebody in your family, and standing up there before the judge, telling this person how I'm praying that God have mercy on your soul, and telling the judge, please have leniency on them. I don't want to see anything bad happen to you. I don't want anything to happen to you. But I've seen white people in the courtroom when something happens, they family member, they got it together. I hope you receive the death penalty. I hope you receive the fullest extent of what can be done to you under the law. See? This is how we wired up. Our wires are crossed. Have no business crying for a man who shows his true colors. No business crying. We have a false image, and that creates the disappointment because we have been fed this lie that this white supremacist system is set up for us to have equality in it. That's why I mentioned John Gruden's road to where he was. Now he's falling now, but I'm going to touch on that in a second. See, we won't have equality in this system because it wasn't set up for us to have equality in it. So John Gruden was brought up into prominence when he did nothing to earn that. This is a fact. Ain't nobody hating. This is a fact. Go look at everything I just said and follow the timeline, and then you tell me where John Gruden was some incredible, game-changing, innovative coach. And you got a brother who can't pay for a job in the NFL, a head coaching job. And if they get one, God forbid that it don't work out. They're going to put you with a scrub team off the muscle, and God forbid you have you don't go 4-12, and you'll never get another shot. Trying to think of a black coach that got fired in the NFL and landed somewhere else as a head coach. Help me out. I could be wrong, but I'm thinking about Dungy. I'm thinking about Lovie Smith. I'm thinking about back in the days before y'all could, Art Shell. I'm thinking about any black coaches who ever, Marvin Lewis. I'm thinking about all these black coaches who they coached, but once they lost that spot, you might see him as a coordinator now. They'll land somewhere. Oh, well, he's the special teams coach now. Oh, we got him working the offensive line. He's in charge of the offense. Well, he's the defensive coordinator right now. Somebody says Stockholm syndrome. We have fell in love with our captors. And it doesn't matter if you had a relationship with that person. You allowed yourself to be deceived, to fall under the delusional mindset that this person was in your corner. Herm Edwards. I see you, Doug. Herm Edwards landed in two places, right? Herm Edwards did coach two teams. I know he coached, then he coached the Jets. Where else did he land? But the point is, we scraping to find one. Tony Dungy went to Indy. That's right. But you see these other coaches recycled over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. The same way that this is not our world. And we fight so hard. All throughout history, we have fought for inclusion. It's not our world. It's not our system. It's not our league. So the question arises now, what do y'all think? I want y'all to answer the question. Will John Gruden resurface again somewhere down the line when the smoke clears? Do y'all think that he'll land somewhere else one day? I personally don't know the answer to that, but I will say this. I would not be surprised if he did. Let's see what y'all talking about. The OG, Pee Wee Broussard. That's who hit me with that Stockholm Syndrome. See what y'all talking about. I watched Stephen A. Smith doing the same thing today. See, here's the deal. This is what we got to understand. You don't have to cry to still defend your oppressor. You don't have to cry. You can do it in another way. Stephen A. Smith does it in another way. And the other panelists that he had on, they do it in another way when they were talking about Kyrie Irving, and they were talking about how he's being selfish because he asked James Harden, he asked Kevin Durant to come play with him in Brooklyn. Now he's being selfish and jeopardizing their chances to win a championship because he doesn't want to get punched in the arm. And you watch these guys place more importance and more emphasis on a game than a man who is placing emphasis on his vessel and on his life and on what he may believe to be the better decision for him to make about his life. And you get on TV talking this foolishness about how he should get punched in the arm because this is jeopardizing Brooklyn's chances to win a championship in a sport. Athletes play in the league 10 years if they lucky. 15, 16, 17 if you're one of the greats and your body holds up. You retire typically at about 35, 38 if you have a good long run. So I'm using the people who may have a good run. So you Dr. J. Dr. J retired. He was 37 years old. Do you know how young 37 years old is, man? In the grand scale of a lifespan. So you played all these years, and in the game, you considered old, but in life, you 37 years old, which means you got a whole lot of more life to live. You got to get through the rest of your 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, if you make it that far. You got a lot of life to live. So to try to put an emphasis on me and to shame me to say I should dedicate my life or I should risk my life because of my beliefs, feeling like this punch in the arm is not healthy for me, I should just discard all that, risk what I believe to be my health and my safety, which trickles down and affects my family. If I'm not around to provide for them, I should do that for the sake of a game because we want to win the championship. You can't be a bigger fool to say something like that. And the part that bothers me is the arrogance that they talk. They talk so matter of fact, like what they're saying is the absolute truth. You can't be a bigger fool to say something like that. See? And to say, well, he's not an epidemiologist. He's not a virologist. So he's not qualified to speak on anything concerning this matter because he didn't go to school for X amount of years and to learn the intricacies of epidemiology. As if it's impossible for a person who did not study that or go to school for that, that's not their official profession, as if that's impossible, if it's impossible for a person to do independent research. If you do independent research, okay, well, if Kyrie Irving is a fool because he's done independent research, or anybody else that you can say, well, you're not a scientist, you're not a virologist, you shouldn't be able to speak on that, then okay, Stephen A. Smith, you never played in the NBA. You're not an NBA player. You've never played in the NBA, so you're not qualified to speak on the NBA. Same principle. If we're going to play that game, this is the hypocrisy that we show, and we do it all on behalf of big boss man sitting in the corporate, in the suite, in the office. We make daddy proud. We make him proud, boy. He sit up there and boy, look at him go. Look at him go, boy. I don't have to come out and say a word because I got them niggers down there. They gonna speak my thoughts. They gonna speak my thoughts. And I don't have to say nothing. And I can let them argue among themselves. I can let the black folks come out against him. He'll take the backlash and he'll defend my points. And he'll do it gladly. See? So Randy Moss fell into that pit, knowingly or unknowingly. I'm a fan of Randy Moss. I'm not beating up Randy Moss. I'm speaking to a broader mindset that causes this type of reaction when one of those races get the cover snatched off of. See? It's the reaction, it's the mindset. We've been conditioned, programmed to love our enemy. Love your enemy. Turn the other cheek. Pray for those who curse you. These are the teachings that were imposed on us during slavery. This was instilled in us, and through a process called epigenetics, it becomes a part of our DNA. So here we are down the timeline, down our bloodline in this so-called modern day, some of us carrying them same kind of thoughts. Some of us black folks feeling sorry for John Gruden. It's black folks that feel sorry for him right now. Oh, he had to resign. He had to lose his job. Well, they gave him $100 million, and who knows how much he made during Monday Night Football all those years. He's fine financially, and he's not embarrassed, and he's not remorseful. And I'm going to tell you again why he's not remorseful, because in his resignation, he said, I'm resigning from the Raiders because I don't want to be a distraction. Not because he has remorse. You tried to play that game like that's not a racist bone in my body. Yep. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And black folks, even when we know history, we still seem to ignore it. We still seem to ignore it. We go all the way back to Paula Deen, the little cooking lady, little Southern cooking lady who was slanging the N-word around. She was slanging the N-word around like a frisbee. But all the black folks, we just love Paula Deen. We always let them make it. What y'all talking about, man? Let me know where y'all from. Drop your locations real quick because I'm getting ready to go, man. I'm getting ready to go, man. Most of the leaders they give to us, keyword, give to us, are government agents and they buck dance around circumstances. Come on, Triple X. They put people in positions that they typically know are going to speak their language for them. All for money. Stephen A. Smith and Marcus Spears, they talked about money. They talked about the game and money. I'm not going to compromise my money. I'm not going to play with my money like that. But you'll play with your people like that. Then when somebody else comes along and decides that they're not going to play with their people like that, then you spring into action and you got a problem with it. And you talk about how stupid they are. Because they don't want to compromise in order to make some money. No individual can rise higher than the condition of their people, so says the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. It ain't no way you can do it. So no matter how much money they give you, when they ready to sit you down, they'll sit you down. Where we at, man? Oregon in the building. Chapel Hill, Denmark. That's what's up. Kansas City, Wharton, Texas, London, England. Okay, we international. I see you, Roderick. H-Town, Derek Mallory, St. Paul, Minneapolis, Morristown. Never heard of Morristown. East Tennessee, Greens Point. Come on now. Tim Rand said Abe was just as racist as Lee. That's right. Talking about Robert E. Lee. Tina P, the OG. I'm sorry, Kat. Tina P, the OG. Philly in the building. Houston, Texas, A-Leaf. Great quote from Malcolm. If you're not careful, the newspapers will have you hating the people who are being oppressed and loving the people who are doing the oppressing. Truth be told. East Texas, I see you, Joe. Lone Star, Texas. Stand for nothing, fall for anything. Y'all be careful with that, man. John Gruden is not going to lose an ounce of sleep. Not 1 ounce. CP, Georgia. John Gruden is not going to lose an ounce of sleep because he's going to fall back on his $100 million or whatever he's worth now. He's going to ride it out and he will surface somewhere. If he does not surface as a head coach, I promise you, he will surface again. He will coach on a collegiate level. He will be moved into somebody's front office. We will see him again at some point. Just be patient. Never cry when white supremacy is exposed through whoever it's exposed through. Don't ever cry. Peace, man.